5% should be reserved for persons with disability. Government is also not implementing it. We're in a policy movement right now, and that movement is about the reserved seats bill for women.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Inclusive Governance Podcast. My name is Esther Hadiza Ijiaku. I'm your host, and this is a space where we explore how governance can be more inclusive, participatory, and impactful, especially for the Nigerian woman. So today, I am very excited about the topic, which is about law versus reality, the challenges to inclusion. And I have a wonderful guest with me in the studio. Princess, why are you looking like that?
Go ahead.
Yes. So Princess Hamman-Obels, a feminist scholar, practitioner with over 2 decades of experience advancing gender justice, democracy, and inclusion. She's the founder and director of the Initiative for Research, Innovation, and Advocacy in Development. Is it IRIAD?
Yeah.
IRIAD. And the Electoral Hub, which has shaped key reforms in Nigeria's electoral space. Welcome, Princess. I'm excited to have you with me today.
Thank you, Esther, for having me.
So today we'll be unpacking the gap between Nigeria's constitutional provisions or promises, I would say, and the lived realities of women, young people, and persons with disabilities. And we'll be asking, what will it take to make inclusion more than just words on paper? So, I think something during the introduction, something got my attention, which is the fact that you're a feminist. You know how it is. I want to start with that one because once people hear that somebody is a feminist, they'll say, hey, they don't come. So tell us just briefly, just to introduce yourself, what does it mean to be a feminist and own it?
Oh, for me, actually, like Shim Amanda said, everybody should be a feminist, actually. I mean, for me, feminism is about decentering the man and making everybody be the center. So it's not about man. This life is not about the man. It's about all of us. So men, women, young people, minority ethnic groups, people with disability, women with disability. So all of us have to be in the center, not just the male. Yeah, so that's my feminism. And second part of my feminism has to do with the idea of choice. So if a woman decides that I want to be 100% housewife, perfect. I want to be out there pursuing a career, perfect. I want to combine both, perfect. Anything the woman decides to do, that's my feminism, the power of choice.
Yes.
And that's what I push and advocate and emphasize.
So generally what you're saying is that a feminist is an inclusion advocate.
Yes.
Awesome. So we're in the right place and we're with the right person.
Yes.
Good. Okay, so I noticed that you have a poster on your lap. I wanted to start talking about the laws that we have and whether they're working, but why the poster?
Okay, so right now in Nigeria, we are at a story making and story making. So history and a story as well, making movement, so to speak. We're in a policy movement right now, and that movement is about the reserved seats bill for women. You know, one of the challenges in our public life is the lack of inclusion or poor representation of women in governance. And this bill is one which is also is the best practice globally as a means of actually increasing women political representation. So as a feminist, gender inclusion advocates and all of that, this right now is my focus. So anywhere I go, I'm going with my poster. We need to inform, we need to educate, we need to sensitize the public and all necessary stakeholders about the importance of inclusion in our governance. So this inclusion is not just about women, it's also about women with disability as well. Yeah.
Awesome. So I know that we are working on this bill, but we have the Constitution. So I'll start with a question on the Constitution. So how can we bridge the gap between constitutional guarantees of equality and the lived reality of women, young people and persons with disability?
First and foremost, it's because of the challenge of that lacuna, the gap with what the Constitution provides, which is not gendered enough. That we have to come up with a bill to amend the Constitution in such a way that inclusion can be a major issue in terms of our laws. Hopefully, hoping that with that, we can now have a better reality of more disadvantaged group or more excluded groups being part of governance. For instance, the language of our Constitution is very masculine. When the Constitution talks about eligibility for positions, for instance, it uses the term he. It doesn't use he or she.
Yeah.
It says to be the president of Nigeria, for instance, says he must be citizen of Nigeria. He must be this. So all the criteria has the E. The same to be a governor, it has E. So even in the language alone, it's very exclusionary.
Okay.
So yeah, so you can see that even the law itself also has its own gap in terms of being inclusive.
So I think the community of persons with disability have kind of gone ahead of the women. We're still pushing for HB 1349, but persons with disability got a bill passed into law in 2018. That's the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Act. Prohibition Act. What do you think? Because I know you don't have a disability. And I know from what you have said in the past, you don't want to take brief for anybody or hold brief for anybody. But
technically, they do say we that use glasses were also part of their community.
Okay, so you see, so we're okay. So how effective do you think this bill has been? Because it makes several provisions. Let me just throw it out there. So about, of course, prohibition of any form of discrimination, accessibility, and then 5% of appointments, especially in public service and things like that. How do you think, has it been effective, at least from what you have seen as a typical Nigerian or a regular Nigerian?
Okay, so let's go there actually. That was the case when the bill was passed in 2018 or 19. And there was a 5-year moratorium. So 5-year grace for everybody to comply.
Align.
Yes.
Comply.
Knowing that because society was so exclusionary to them, you need a bit of time to, like, simple thing of accessibility, for instance. So public institutions, every public space, even private spaces actually are supposed to provide ramp so that at least people with wheelchair can come in. And that was never part of buildings. So you needed time to make all of those provisions available. So there was that 5 years grace. And so after 5 years, then you start monitoring for compliance. So I will talk about the 5 years. And I think the 5 years or last year.
Yes.
Then compliance. In between last year and now, I don't think there've been so much compliance. There are lots of public spaces that do not even have accessibility for persons with disability. Yeah, that of course, even government itself is not implementing a 5% requirement that public offices must have
for employment.
To even old offices, political and all of that. 5% should be reserved for persons with disability. Government is also not implementing it. So there are lots of gaps that's not been met in terms of the law. The PWD law. So there's the law and there's the reality. So it's not being functional.
I'll then ask the obvious question: why? What are the barriers? If the law is there, why are we not seeing it being implemented or complied with, like you have said?
So one of the things, first of all, is the law itself. So it was made at the national level. I know, like many laws, just like the Child Rights Act as well, you make it at National Assembly, then the states also comply to adopt, or what they call domestication. And as we have now, we have 36 states in Nigeria. It's only about 17 that have adopted. So that's even the first stage in terms of implementation.
Okay.
It's only about 17 states. And this includes states like Abia, states like Lagos, Ekiti, Osun, and from states like that. But quite a bit, at 17 out of 36, that is not even up to half. It's a number of them. Yeah, a number of them are in the process for sure. But you see the number that still not even comply. And part of the compliance is that you have your law at state level. Then you also have a commission.
Commission, yes.
Yeah, because the commission is supposed to be like the implementing agency, the monitoring agency, and all of that. So where you have out of 36, only 17 having it. So you already know that below 50% compliance first at that level. Already.
Yeah. That's dead on arrival, almost.
Almost. But it's a structural issue. And things of structure, to change structural issues take time. Usually gradual. The good news, at least, we're in progress. States, and more states are coming on board. I mean, over about 10 states are in the process, including Bayelsa and quite a number of them. They're in the process of meeting compliance or domesticating, of course, establishing the commission. And I do understand right now that economically we're done as a country. So, there's one thing to do the law. Establishing a commission,
it costs money.
Costs money. Any establishment thing costs money because, there's a physical structure of the establishment. There's also the personnel that you have to pay. It's not money you're paying them. It's like continuous payment. So there are those budget constraints. So going back to what are the challenges, one of the things is also resources.
Yes.
So resource constraints is one of the challenges actually
implementation of those laws.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a bit more broadly about inclusion laws. So looking at the different groups and where we have some kind of gaps or weakness in the constitution. So from your experience, how can advocacy and citizen engagement influence, because you're already advocating here.
Yeah.
So how can advocacy and citizen engagement influence enforcement of inclusion laws?
Okay, let me even say it now. It's actually what you've seen as enforcement, even democratic norms you see in society has actually been driven by advocacy and citizens engagement.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you think back, the struggle to come back to the move towards civilian rule or democracy was championed by citizens, by civil society. So civil society, citizens, and I've been advocating, I've been engaging, I've been pushing, I've been pressuring for compliance. So you can't take it away. So citizens do have a role, and to ensure compliance and implementation of this law. If citizens don't do that, the laws will never be implemented.
What exactly do citizens or can citizens do? Maybe in more specific terms of the course of action to take.
Okay, so one of the things citizens can do is actually monitor for compliance. So demand for accountability, call them out, and different ways to do that. You could write letters, you could do media campaigns, you could do social media engagements, you could do peace walks, you could do advocacy visits, you do research, because it's always good to actually start from a place of research.
Knowledge.
Yes, knowledge, research. So you give them reasons. Research is empirical evidence why these things need to be done and need to be done now. So call for action in different ways, so that multiple ways citizens can ensure compliance and ensure implementation of laws.
Interesting. So we are talking about we've been talking from the perspective of the citizens. Now, what of the leaders? We have political leaders, we have institutions. What roles can they play in ensuring that the rights of marginalized groups are upheld? Because even if we go to the National Assembly, we can't vote. It's somebody that has been put there to represent us to vote. So what role can they play, political leaders, institutions, in ensuring that those rights are upheld?
Actually, the critical burden of responsibility lies with political leaders. They are responsible for ensuring the implementation of making the laws inclusive laws, and also the implementation of the laws. So of course, part of that implementation is providing for it. So budget item, so inclusion in the budgets, resource allocation, and to ensure that the laws are implemented, establishing commission where they have to be established, and also funding the commission, then building capacity as well, because some of this is also kind of new. And we do know that you establish public servants. If you establish a commissions, some of the times they will second people from like head of service, for instance, to lose commissions. This is a new thing. Disabilities are specific technical issues. And even people living with disability, to be able to even do monitor and everything, you need to give them those skills. So it doesn't mean, for instance, that because I'm somebody with a disability, I necessarily know what to do. So you will need to educate and build capacity. I guess the capacity building includes the education to know what to look out for and know how to actually ensure effective implementation of the act such that it's impactful and the constituency really benefits and achieve the purpose for which the law was.
Inclusive Governance Podcast is brought to you by Nigerian Women Trust Fund with support from Open Society Foundations and produced by Skill Hub Consulting. You spoke on the political leaders themselves, but which institutions should we be looking at, to improve the chances of, for example, this bill and also the implementation of the disability bill, talking about institutions now?
So it's both the executive and the legislature. What do I mean? So legislature, of course, they make the law, but part of that work is also oversight. So you make a law, you have to oversight the implementation as well. Commissions and bodies under different, they're supposed to be submitting report, for instance. So they should be able to submit report where executive has not complied as they should, such that the legislature will not do their work of oversight. The executive, so when I mean executive, not just national, because remember, this bill is supposed to, this acts or rather law is supposed to be domesticated across the country. So governors at the subnational level are responsible at their level. At the federal level, the president is responsible as the executive. So the presidency, so to speak, So they are responsible. They have specific responsibility as even stipulated in the law. Because our laws also come out with, rules. So this is what this institution will do. This is what this other institution will do. This is what citizens will do. Some laws even have place for citizens and all of that. So yes, so those are the core institutions responsible for ensuring that these laws actually make meaning in everyday life.
Okay, so now as civil society, where we have civil society organizations, like organized civil society organizations, government, communities, what steps can they take together? Because there has to be like some kind of connection and strengthening those relationships to ensure that inclusivity moves beyond paper commitments. I think that's the crux of the matter, that we have it on paper, but we're not seeing it. So how can we strengthen these relationships? What can be done?
So I guess one of the major challenges is actually this concept or this idea that the field is ripe or the harvest is huge, but there are not enough laborers. Yeah, so even in terms of organized civil society, there's still a kind of fatigue, but there's so many issues people are dealing with as Nigerians, as Nigerian organization in the social sector. So, and there are so many things that needs to be done, and really there are not enough hands. So in terms of closing, people will now need to leverage on each other. So it's not out of place for coalitions to perform. So you strengthen yourselves in terms of engaging this particular issue. So you have then where this one is your strength, the other of the strategies, so you come together to ensure that at least you are making impact. Especially now with the shrinking funding space.
Yes.
So a lot of people really need to work leveraging each other. You can't really work in silo anymore. And going forward, in terms of translating laws into reality, they really need more collaborations, more partnerships amongst all groups while we're supporting government. And that's what civil society has also done over the years, where they've transitioned from just working with themselves to working in partnership with government on a lot of issues. I can use the OGP as an example. In OGP, the civil society there work with government. So
what's the OGP?
Okay, so OGP just means OGP is open government partnership.
I just wanted us to
it's a global,
so that I won't assume, I could easily just say, okay, I look like it, but okay.
Yeah, OGP. So, like at the Open Government Partnership level, that's what has been happening. So, civil society working in that space, including mine, we engage government, we work with government to just ensure that government is open, like the word says.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, open, transparent,
Open
accountable,
governance.
inclusive, participatory. So that all these
Wow,
are the principles.
you just threw out quite some very heavy terms, right? Now I'm sure if we try to unpack them, it's going to take a long time. But go ahead.
Yeah. So these are the key principles driving OGP anywhere in the world. The guiding principles why government needs to be open, and openness implies you need to have all of this in place.
So where you have citizens that have not really been engaging, but now they want to engage, is there any way that they can plug in? Because I mean, people like you have been in the civil society space for a while, and so you know where you need to plug in. But so for people that are listening to us, for example, that want to plug in, that want to get involved, that want to jump on this, what can they do, or what steps can they take?
One of the easiest ways they can jump in. So I'll break it down. So urban citizens, so people that have access to digital space, they can jump in easily at little cost with social media engagement, louding, amplifying, and promoting visibility, reinforcing messages and engagement. They can also, then citizens that probably don't have access to digital space, because we always assume all of us are on social media.
Yes, there are media dark communities.
Yes,
actually.
I mean our rural communities. If the common, even without electricity, how do you even charge your phone to even get on? So this, beside the data issue, there's also the electricity issue and all of that. So persons like that, so they can also get in by physical engagement. One of the things you can now take away, this one-on-one talk is also very important. I mean, one of the best advertisement strategy or marketing strategy is one-on-one engagement, and and that's the ripple effects basically continue. So these are some of the simple ways citizens can get on. Of course, citizens that have skills to provide, they can also do research, they can also show out the data and all of that. There are many different ways they can plug in on key governance issue happening in the country, just to push us towards the path of development, and let us get to our Eldorado finally.
Wow, Eldorado. Okay, so now looking ahead, what reforms or actions do you believe are most urgent to strengthen inclusive governance in Nigeria?
Okay. So, I know when you mentioned key institutions last time, one of the institutions we omitted, for instance, in terms of political participation, is political parties.
Yes.
On Wednesday, we paid an advocacy visit to INEC, tied on women inclusion and all of that.
Okay. And that's the additional seats bill.
For women, yes. So INEC also support that, as well as prepare to run the elections for these seats and all of that. But you see, one critical issue is the political party. Like we've been reminded,
yes.
Political party has a major role in democracy. But sadly, our political parties think it's only contesting the election that is their role. That's not their whole role. They have a principal role of being models. For instance, most of the political parties have constitutions that provides for inclusion, but none of them implemented, not one. PDP, who claim to be the most gender friendly, they have 35%. But they don't meet the 35%. In PDP national...
it's still back to the paper now.
So yes, there's only one woman, for instance, and because she's a women leader in the national executive. So if there was not that position of women leader, which we are also against, we need it.
Yes,
if
it's
we want to really be
tokenism.
serious, yes, so it's only one woman voice in the midst of 17 men or thereabouts. It doesn't make sense. And we need more serious issues, like maybe a women's wing, like it's done in other countries, if you really want to move agenda forward. So political parties are an important institution, even in promoting for elective positions. So even for women with disability or persons with disability, this 5% we're talking about, political party, have they been implemented? If you even check it out, how many political parties in terms of physical accessibility are disabled friendly? So if we want to even talk about implementation and compliance, there are easy key institutions can already start picking out? Or is it our ministries? How many of our ministries are disabled friendly? The government spaces, the public spaces, for instance, So these are really the challenge on ground.
Okay, so personally, from your perspective as an advocate, what does El Dorado look like? What will you see that you say, okay, we have arrived in terms of inclusion?
Is where, when there is a table, you look at that table and the whole diversity within our population is reflected on a table. That's when you say Dorado is arrived. So when I look at our National Assembly, for instance, I don't want to see 4 women out of 109 men. Senate is supposed to be 109. Then you have 4 women. That means you have 4 over 109. That means 105 are men.
Yes.
And as it is today, it's 3.5 women.
5%.
Yes, it's 3.5 women, because when you say
one has not even been allowed to come back. Okay.
So she's just been doing constituency issues. She's not sitting there and having a voice for our people. That's, you can see the far.
It tells us the amount of work that needs to be done. Yeah.
And this is the worst Senate in terms of women representation, because the numbers keep decreasing. Every election keeps decreasing. Now, House of Rep, there are 360 seats. 360. Guess how many women? Let's take a guess. Just 15. Not even up to 50. Just 15. So you have 360 persons, only 15 women. The place won't be colorful now.
You said it to me.
No, just in physical attraction safe.
So representation
is so poor.
Yes.
And in that 360, how many people there are persons with disability? How many people there are young people? We're just mentioning women. So look how poor it is.
Absolutely.
At even the state level, the most annoying one is at state level. I think you're from Kaduna. Okay, maybe. But that is even poor. Northwest. It's only Kaduna that has 1 woman.
Yes.
Kaduna.
Yes.
All the other states, there's no single woman in the state assemblies. It means that all the women committee are headed by men. There are some states that they want to make Commissioner of Women Affairs a man.
No, there are actually.
There are states where men want to run as women leaders. We've seen it. In 2021, in 21st century Nigeria, we're still having to deal with this. Wow. I think it's not proper. This is glaring. You don't need to be told what to do. At this time, if we say we're giants of Africa, let's really be the giants of Africa.
Wow. On that note, I think this doesn't feel like a complete conversation. It feels like a conversation starter where we're looking at how laws translate to reality and where there are gaps. And there are gaps. Yeah. We've just talked about gaps, especially around the Disability Act, around the women, additional seats for women. That is not even an act yet. It has not gone into law. But the Constitution actually provides for equality and equal treatment and opportunities. So, on that note, I think we'll pause. I will say pause because there's so much more to talk about and so much more that needs to be done. And say a big thank you to you, Princess, for sitting with me and talking through this gap that needs to be bridged between constitutional provisions and promises and the lived reality of women, young people, and persons with disability. And to you, our listeners, thank you for tuning into Inclusive Governance Podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, and join us as we continue to explore pathways to building a more inclusive Nigeria. As usual, I'm your host, Esther Hadiza Ijiaku. Stay engaged, stay inspired, and keep pushing for change. Thank you for joining us today. Bye.